Time for Midday Live. Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Laya. Headlines for this afternoon. Ghana lost 4% of its 1,729 megawatts net power generation last year, depriving the country of about 74 megawatts of power supply as a result of overload on transmission lines. And in more this afternoon on the international front, Israeli warplanes struck inside Syria for the first time in 5 years. I've got details of these stories and many more coming up shortly. Do stay with me. Now the story is in detail. The Supreme Court is sitting to determine whether lawyers for the National Democratic Congress, led by Chachu Chekata, should be allowed to comment on the interlocutory suit served on the Electoral Commission by the NPP presidential candidates Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his two petitioners. The three petitioners, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, and Jacob Echebilamte, are demanding the actual figure of Ghanaian residents abroad who were registered for ahead of the 2012 elections. At the last hearing, Chachu Chekata was prevented from speaking on the matter as the court said he could only do so if a formal application on the matter is filed. The three petitioners from the NPP are challenging the results of the 2012 presidential elections, which the NPP claims was rigged in favor of President John Dramani Mahama. President Mahama, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Kojo Aferi-Gyan, and the commission are named respondents in the petition. The NDC was granted by the Supreme Court's application to join the petition because President Mahama stood and won the elections on the ticket of the National Democratic Congress. Now to one of our headline stories. Ghana lost 4% of its 1,729 megawatts net power generation last year, depriving the country of about 74 megawatts of power supply as a result of overload on transmission lines. Now, to reduce transmission losses, the Ghana Grid company, Gridco, says it is building 330 kilovolt transmission lines across the country to reinforce the existing 161 kilovolts line.
Transmitting electric power from the point of generation at high voltage results in transmission losses. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission allows about 3.5% of transmission losses during the transmission process, knowing transmission losses cannot be totally avoided. But last year, Ghana lost about 4% of her net power. To reduce transmission losses, the Ghana Grid company is constructing a 330 kilovolt transmission line from Tema to Abuadze, Prestia to Kumasi, with additional lines from Tema to Lome by the West African Power Pool.
If you are generating all from one side and moving it long distances, your losses will increase. So that informed the decision to even locate the next major generation point at Bui, so that you don't need to move all the power from Akosombo to the north. We have built 330 kV lines or 330,000 volts lines. By going to this higher voltage, the amount of current that will flow on the line will reduce, and that will automatically bring down the losses.
Though transmission losses reduce power supply to the country, Gridco is able to monitor generation and transmission of power across the country with their system control center, and believes the country's current power crisis is mainly as a result of inadequate power generation.
In Côte d'Ivoire, their losses are as high as 5.5%. But they may not be experiencing any outages if they have enough generation. Our losses are less than their losses, but we are having challenge because we don't have enough generation in this country compared to the amount of load that we have. And don't forget, the economy is growing and there's a lot of development. People are putting in a lot of air conditioners, and all these have resulted in increase in load.
Still watching Midday Live. Well, disregard for road traffic regulations and indiscipline are still rampant on the N1 highway. Some road users still cross the unauthorized locations while vehicles speed on.
One would have thought that the recent accidents that have occurred on the N1 highway would deter pedestrians from crossing the highway indiscriminately. But calls on pedestrians by some major stakeholders have fell on deaf ears as pedestrians continue to risk their lives by refusing to use the footbridges. Damages on the highway show the rate at which accidents occur on the road. Even the presence of the crew would not stop pedestrians. Portions of the median railing have been removed by miscreants, creating pedestrians easy access on both sides of the highway. Authorities have indicated provision has been made for 6 permanent footbridges. These locations were chosen to avoid any conflict with the areas earmarked for future construction of the additional interchanges in phases, namely Abekala Pass, Jawulu, Kwashiman, Nyamiche and Awoshi intersection. These footbridges will take into account additional arrangements that will facilitate crossings by all pedestrians.
So watching Midday Live, and we continue with our stories. Residents of Nzulenzu and the Western region are accusing successive governments of neglecting their developmental needs. But before we take that story, we have some other updates on the N1 highway.
The trend has not changed. People continue to cross the N1 highway at inappropriate locations. School children are left at their own peril to cross the road. We chanced on this trailer driver with registration number AS4922S, which has developed a fault but has been parked without a triangle to warn oncoming vehicles. Upon questioning the driver, who refused to give his name, he promised to immediately fix the triangle, but it was clear that he had no triangle in the vehicle.
The time when the thing happened, will be traffic, so me myself I make what. So I told him, "Say go put on, put on." But it say be major for.
Sir, you bought the car for the shop a month ago. This is the first trip we can't take, but you don't know say the triangle. How the car the problem before we start the triangle, you don't see the triangle for the car inside.
About 52 people have lost their lives on the stretch, yet people continue to drive or cross the road carelessly.
Well, child labor is rife along the banks of River T in Dambai in the Volta region. Despite the glaring challenges, Listowell Akwe reports there is a wanton disregard for sanity.
Dambai is a small town in the Karachi East district. Fishing and farming are the mainstay here. Child labor, lack of potable water and unemployment blight the development of the area. The absence of jobs makes a case for the increase in child labor activities. The rate of school dropout is on the ascendancy. Children would rather lurk around. Travelers are transported on the river by children, oblivious of the repercussions.
We are always at the receiving end of passenger insults. I work here on weekends and during vacation. I'm pleading with government to provide us with more permit fuel.
Joanita State narrates her drudgery and thirst for relief.
What class are you?
I sell soya daily here at the school. I'm a class 1 student in RC. My parents live in Karachi. I stay with my auntie and would like to be a police officer in the future.
12-year-old Nathaniel thrills travelers daily with his knack for creativity, hinting of a desire to become an engineer someday.
I made
the ship in 4 days out of aluminium sheet. It has a lighting system. Samples of my artifacts can be found in the education center. In the future, I would like to be an engineer.
Though engaged in child labor, they still do have dreams. From the Volta region, we move straight to the Western region, and residents of Nzulenzu in that very region are accusing successive governments of neglecting their developmental needs. Sandra Amakwe reports, though the area has become a tourist attraction because of its unique habitation on water, residents complain they lack basic infrastructural amenities to improve their livelihood.
Nzulenzu is a small village established over 500 years ago. The entire community has houses constructed with wood, elevated above the lake Amansuri, with structures supported by stilts sinking deep into the bottom of the lake. The routes linking various parts of the community is made up of a central road with a raffia walkway. To get to and from Nzulenzu, one must travel using a canoe from a small dock in the village of Bain. The population of Nzulenzu is about 450, with its leadership consisting a chief and a handful elders. Even though they live on water, the main source of income for the people is farming. In the middle of the community lies the main street that divides the community. There are two churches, Pentecost and Catholic, a guest house and a school up to the upper primary level. What this means is that children in this community are compelled to travel an hour-and-a-half journey to get to the next community if they want to go beyond the primary level. The distance has, however, made some children unable to continue their education beyond this level. The main challenge faced by the community is that teachers do not accept postings to the community. Make no mistake, hawking is not limited to the central business district of Accra alone. Here in Nzulenzu, there's active hawking as demonstrated by this lady on what they term main streets. The unavailability of a health post makes deliveries difficult as residents rely on the only local midwife in the community for safe delivery. Some residents spoke to the news team.
When I was 12 years, I complete the primary school here. And I go to junior school at Bayi. I work with a tourist board at Bayi. So when tourists come, they meet me and ask questions about here and answer them.
So when someone is sick or someone is pregnant, how do you transport the person to Bayi?
You have an album motor in case of emergency, then you send the person to Bayi to no clinic. So when you are going, you have to call and the car will meet you there, then you send the person to Ekwe.
We have been for about more than 30 years. Mostly our school, you don't have teachers. You have employed community teachers and you pay them.
They appealed to government to pay attention to them and extend some development to the area despite their remote location. Despite the myriad of challenges that confront the community, they have their own ways of enjoying life. Children here could compete favorably in the Olympic Games if given the needed training as they demonstrate skill in swimming.
That report was by Sandra Amakwe. Now, physically challenged persons in chalk production have expressed fear of being pushed out of business with the introduction of projectors and computers in schools by the Ministry of Education. They're asking government to equip them in other skills to prevent further worsening of their plight.
The chalk business at the Accra Rehabilitation Center employs about 15 physically challenged persons. Workers here produce at least 50,000 boxes of chalk for the Ghana Education Service for distribution to schools. The business, according to the production manager Elvis Alimpui, served as the main source of livelihood for disabled persons. Proceeds are usually used to pay utility bills, school fees and other expenses. But the workers were worried about the recent decision by the Education Ministry to replace the use of chalk with projectors and computers in public schools.
We are not degree holders to work in their ministries. Here is the case, they are going to eliminate chalk. So they should find something. First of all, they should go around and do the research. That if we are to eliminate this, which people this is going to affect them? Because some of the Millennium Development Goal, some part talk about eliminate poverty. Then disabled is going to be out of their business. How Ghana is going to achieve this Millennium Development Goal?
Elvis Alimpui said it will not only push them out of business, but more disabled persons would continue to beg on the streets.
Ghana need to grow, but we can't just eliminate somebody's business just like that. It should be bit by bit. Otherwise, disabled will go to where we don't want. Already we wanted to get out of the streets, but here is the case, we have something to do for now. Now in this situation, just imagine, we are going to do more than the streets.
But Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Education, Paul Krampa, explained the use of the projectors and computers would be a gradual process, adding those in the chalk production will still have an avenue for the trade.
Education is a very big sector. We have private schools, we have public schools, and we are trying to introduce it in public schools, and it's going to be on pilot basis. The private schools will continue to use their chalk blackboard, so there will still be avenue for those who manufacture chalk to sell their products.
Some other stories this afternoon: the construction of a facility to cater for the treatment and rehabilitation of persons living with cerebral palsy has kicked off in the central region. Initial funding for the project, which is a first step of many to provide for quality rehabilitation services, was made possible with seed money from Vodafone and its partners, United Way, Ghana.
The Salvation Army Health Center, the major health facility in the Aguna East District, through its community-based rehabilitation center, provides therapeutic treatment for children living with cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a disease acquired during childbirth in which damage is caused to the brain, resulting in difficulties in speech and posture and inability to coordinate the movements of the limbs. The territorial commander of the Salvation Army, Colonel Charles Swansbury, and the Omankrado of Agunan Sabah, Nana Abed, broke the ground to signify the start of the project. The Director of Medical, Social and Community Services of the Salvation Army, Major Heather Craig, said through the facility, people living with cerebral palsy can be assisted to reach their potential and be integrated into mainstream development. The President of the Governing Council of United Way Ghana, Dr. Juliet Twackley, recounted the effort that went into the initiative and was hopeful the facility will help in reducing stigmatization. The former MC for Aguna West, Ben Mensah, who chaired the function, said the project, when completed, will not only be the first in Ghana, but help raise the status of the health center. The Aguna East District Chief Executive, Martin Luther Obing, promised the Assembly's commitment to the project. Carmen Bruce Annan is the head of communication for Vodafone Ghana Foundation.
And Vodafone, in doing their corporate social responsibility, brought in 40,000 Ghana cedis for the initial building of the foundation for this project. So we're asking all of our corporate partners to join us and to join Vodafone so that we can help make Ghana an ideal place for children that have disabilities to be able to get the help that they need.
The director of United Way Ghana, Jonathan Ekwamwa, highlighted more on the project.
Aligned with this program, and to know that through this center, very, very many people across this local community, across Ghana and across West Africa, can really receive healing that we hope will change their lives. We're honored to be a part of this.
The center will, among others, also facilitate the provision of assistive devices for families with children living with multiple disabilities.
On the Appointments Committee of Parliament is vetting more ministerial nominees. The House Wednesday vetted 3 other nominees, and our parliamentary correspondent Edward Kwabi is there, and we have him on the phone line this afternoon. Good afternoon, Edward.
Good afternoon, Wendy.
Now, how many nominees are being vetted today?
With the list given to us by the parliamentary press corps, we have 2 people who are going to be vetted today. That is Professor Jane Nana Opoku for the Ministry of Education and Dr. Omane Buama for the Communications Ministry.
Well, the one for education, which is Professor Jane Nana Opoku, has been in the seat and she's still there. What has she been saying?
Yes, she's been touching on a number of issues, ranging from challenges that the ministry has been facing and how she is going to tackle it differently. We all know she used to be the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, and she brings to bear a number of her years in leadership as a Vice Chancellor and the managerial skills she has acquired over the years. Now she touched on performance of pre-level education, pre-tertiary level education, that is from the primary straight to the CHS and of course possibly to the senior high school. And she says that her strategy is to consult and initiate new reforms just to make sure that we have quality students being churned out to the various tertiary level of education. Now she also was questioned on her stance on a free SHS policy, which made news during the campaign season last year. And she was of the view that there is a need to have in mind the kind of students the country wants to produce at the end of the day for the various tertiary institutions, being it polytechnics, training colleges, and of course the universities. She thinks that education must quality so that the students being churned out there to the various tertiary institutions will meet the standard. She was also asked by a member of the committee, Honorable E. Lecturer, on her thoughts about the 3-year SHS as against the 4-year, and she did indicate that she thinks that the matter is already out of place. She thinks that we have settled with the 3 years, and she also goes by the 3-year year education. One also issue that came up was with free compulsory universal education, and she says that the education ministry must put in place infrastructure, teachers, and of course proper funding mechanisms to make sure that the program is broadened and sustained over the next years. Funding for GET Fund was also raised, and she is also saying that there is the need to look for other sources of funding for the GET Fund that will make sure that it becomes sustainable, and of course will be able to supplement funding of various tertiary institutions years ahead.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Edward Kwabi. He is a parliamentary correspondent, and he was telling us more on what really is happening there with regards to the vetting of the ministers and the nominees for the various ministries. We'll look at some more stories, and with the slightest sparkle fire may break out at the Benab fuel station located at Atomic Junction in Accra. Daniel Lati reports a distribution transformer and electric pole have been situated on the premises of the filling station.
The station is yet to start operation. Business activities are already booming around it. These taxi drivers have found a convenient area for a taxi station. But with a distribution transformer and electric pole situated a few meters away from the fuel pumps, there's a looming danger for the several shoppers and students who use the road. With a frequent power surge, there are fears the facility may catch fire. According to the owner of the station, he was advised by the officials of the Electricity Company of Ghana to fence the gadget in order to prevent encroachment. He claims he had acquired permits from the Environmental Protection Agency and the Electricity Company of Ghana.
We asked the instruction from anybody who knows about this work, MPA, electricity, overalls, all of them. We employ them to come and see whatever we can do, but they give us the guideline to do this as we are doing.
Knowing very well that filling stations are prone to fire, there's a need for authorities to look again at safety measures.
Now, in the Central Region, lack of space is affecting the running of a School of Business at Aguna Suedwa. Central Regional Correspondent Thomas Kwesi Asante reports that Form 1 students take lessons under trees.
Authorities at the Suedwa School of Business have been overtaken by events. The student population stands at 2,800. 600 of them study under trees because some of the classroom blocks have had to be converted into dormitories to accommodate the increase.
Even when it is raining, we can't find anywhere to go and learn. We just pack our things and get into some people's classroom to learn. So we are willing to the president to give us a classroom, a new building classroom, so that our education will upgrade. Thank you.
Stopping under the tree, and then we need your help, especially when the rain is falling. We have to run into some of the classrooms to at least stay there so the rain is stopped.
The headmaster of the school declined to comment. Still on education, a committee has been set up to investigate allegations of malpractice leveled against the headmaster of the Ibraman Senior High School in the Central Region. The staff alleged decisions taken at staff meetings were not implemented by the headmaster. They also claimed procurement processes were not adhered to by the headmaster. The Central Regional Police of Education, Kofi Safo Kantanka, tasked members to investigate the issues raised in the petition and recommend measures for redress within a week.
Still staying in the Central Region, and fire has raised the St. Joseph's Catholic Boys Junior High School at Cape Coast, except for some few stationery and old BEC certificates. Firemen were unable to salvage anything.
The whole structure looks completely destroyed. Hundreds of residents, including the MP for Cape Coast South, Kweku Ricketts Hagan, had converged at the scene of the fire. According to eyewitnesses, the fire began with an explosion which was heard from the headmistress's office. However, before firemen could respond with a platoon of 4 tenders, the fire had engulfed the whole block and was beyond control.
We will meet here to have further discussions with the head teacher and people who are working to make sure that we can find an alternative arrangement for our children, to be able to continue their classes or their education. We will rebuild the school, definitely. Out of every adversity comes something good. So I hope that we'll be able to knock it down and put a much bigger structure in place.
The St. Joseph's Catholic Boys Primary and GHS, which is over 60 years old, is reported to have produced prominent personalities.
Some more news. The ARC Foundation says that women fully participated in decision-making at the local level during the 2012 elections. The advocacy group attributed the success due to enhanced orientation.
The ARC Foundation seeks to protect and promote the rights of women and children through advocacy, training and service delivery. The project provided a platform for 30 young women who employed advocacy and public action to increase accountability and responsiveness of key stakeholders for maintaining peace before, during and after elections 2012.
The project was actually aimed at touching on every aspect of everyone's life, because we all matter in maintaining peace. And it involved capitalizing on the latest dance craze in Ghana called the Azonto. And we had young females and males in areas which were identified as hotspots and vulnerable to conflict during elections. And they were brought together to engage in an Azonto competition. We had winners everywhere we went.
The president of the ARC Foundation Ghana is Angela Dwamina Abuaje.
Anytime we stop talking about violence, killings go up. Men kill their wives. Sometimes they try to kill themselves. Sometimes they don't succeed. Anytime we stop talking about maternal mortality, it slips. About taboos that would have women raped before they can marry their deceased husband's brother, it slips. Don't lose your voices.
The Commissioner of Charge, Loretta Vivian Lamte, touched on women's rights.
I just very much wanted to commend the ARC
for so much in this field for so long, but it gives ideas to the other groups that want to do things to promote the cause of women and make sure that our young women grow up with confidence in their abilities and are able to speak out and make their presence felt.
Next, we do What You Think, and this afternoon we're focusing on the utilities. Should the PURC allow an increase in utility tariffs, looking at the services the utilities have provided in the last 1 year? What do you think?
They should make sure that the services they provide to us is humanistic before they can talk about increase, because it has always been like that let's increase, then we'll improve upon the service. But the increase, the services is the same, the way they carry out their delivery is the same. So my humble opinion is that they should improve upon the services, then they can talk about increase.
Always they say they want to increase, said that they will improve their services, but we continue experiencing almost the same thing throughout. So I feel they should rather do their homework, and when they increase, we'll agree with them.
It's not necessary for them to increase it now, because looking at the services that they are providing to us, it is so poor to the extent that day in, day out, we keep on losing our properties.
You expect that once you are paying for a service, definitely you should be given the correct services that you require. And I don't think they are doing so. I live at Dansoman, and for the past 1 month, almost every time, at least 2 or 3 days, there is light out. So I don't see why they should still be asking for increase in tariffs when they have not done what they are supposed to do.
Why do they increase? What service do we get from it? We are not satisfied with their service. Without improvement, how do you increase your tariff?
We're going for a break, but stories making headlines on the international front. Israeli warplanes struck inside Syria for the first time in 5 years.